Something happened early this morning that could reshape American politics forever. And if you're just hearing about this now, you need to understand exactly what it means. Just a few hours ago, while most people were still asleep, 3 federal judges made a decision that experts say changes everything. This isn't just another court ruling. This could be the turning point that history books will study for generations. Before we dive in, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications. What unfolds in the coming weeks will be talked about for decades, and you'll want to stay informed every step of the way. So here's what happened. Early this morning, a federal appeals court in Washington responded to an emergency request from Donald Trump's legal team. But they didn't just respond, they completely rejected it. And the way they did it sends a powerful message. Trump's lawyers had filed their emergency request late last night. Less than 8 hours later, the court issued their answer. They didn't schedule hearings. They didn't ask for more paperwork. They simply said no. And here's what makes this significant. All 3 judges agreed. There was no disagreement. No one held back. It was unanimous. The language the judges used is worth paying attention to. They described the former president's alleged actions as something never seen before in American history. Courts don't use words like that lightly. When they do, it tells you this isn't a minor legal debate. This is something much bigger. The ruling laid out 4 major points. First, the idea of complete presidential immunity was rejected. Second, the actions in question were labeled as private conduct, not official presidential duties. Third, the criminal charges can move forward. And fourth, this decision could impact every other legal case Trump is facing. Let me explain why this matters more than you might think. Throughout American history, we've seen presidents caught in scandals. But in almost every case, they either resigned, received pardons, or avoided criminal trials altogether. What's happening now is different. A former president is facing criminal charges in multiple places, and his main legal defense is falling apart in real time. This is the kind of situation the founders of our country thought about, but hoped would never actually happen. Well, it's happening now. Now, Trump's team had a backup plan. They've always got a backup plan. The Supreme Court, with 6 conservative justices, including 3 appointed by Trump himself, many expected someone there would step in and slow things down. But here's what's actually happening. Nothing. Complete silence. Not from the liberal justices, but from the conservatives, from the Chief Justice, from the Trump appointees themselves. No emergency action. No sign that anyone there sees this as needing urgent attention. Even longtime Trump supporters in Congress are starting to talk openly about what this means. One Republican senator said out loud that the party could be looking at a nominee with a criminal conviction. Think about that. A Republican senator saying that about the Republican frontrunner. If you're getting value from this breakdown, please hit the like button. It helps more people find this information and understand what's really going on. Now let's talk about timing, because this is where things get intense. The judge overseeing the main federal case has specific rules about how fast a trial must happen once certain legal questions are settled. Those rules say a trial needs to start within 70 days. The clock is ticking right now. Sources indicate the full court opinion could come in about 28 days. After that, prosecutors could push for an immediate trial date. The original trial date that was set? Early March. If the Supreme Court doesn't intervene, that date could become locked in. And here's something important about unanimous decisions from 3 judges. They almost never get overturned later. The window is closing. The exits are disappearing. And Trump's legal team knows it. Think about what's happening inside Trump's legal operation right now. Reports suggest they've seen who the witnesses will be. His own vice president, his own chief of staff, his own White House lawyer. People who were in the room for everything. They've reportedly reviewed the evidence. Prosecutors have gathered text messages, emails, phone records, video footage that the world has already seen. They know what's coming. And the response? A constant stream of social media posts. Claims of political persecution. Attacks on judges. Warnings to supporters. Then came posts that worried law enforcement across Washington. Messages suggesting there could be serious problems if the legal cases don't stop. Analysts say this kind of language could potentially be seen as witness intimidation. Every post gets saved, time-stamped, and could become evidence itself. Right now, Washington looks like it's preparing for something major. Capitol Police are on alert. Security measures are being added around the courthouse. Multiple agencies are coordinating. This is day one of what could be a 70-day countdown. Officials learned lessons from January 6th. They're not ignoring the warnings this time. Security assessments have been elevated. Online activity is being monitored. Enhanced protection is being prepared for prosecutors, witnesses, and judges. Let me be clear about what the charges actually are, because this is crucial. These aren't vague political disputes. These are specific criminal counts related to election integrity and the peaceful transfer of power. The core foundations of how democracy works. And the jury pool? Washington, D.C., where the current president received over 90% of the vote. Prosecutors reportedly have testimony from Trump's own people, the people he chose, the people he trusted, the people who were there when it happened. But even if you think the D.C. case has weaknesses, there's another case waiting. In Georgia, the district attorney has brought different charges involving 19 defendants. That means potentially 19 people who could cooperate with prosecutors. And the evidence in Georgia is different. There's a recorded phone call that you can listen to yourself. There's documentation of an alternate elector plan. There's evidence related to voting system access. Different evidence, different state laws, and none of it depends on federal immunity arguments at all. Georgia is a state case. Federal immunity doesn't apply there. If you're still watching, drop a comment. Do you think we'll see a conviction before the election, or will there be delays past November? I genuinely want to hear your thoughts. And we haven't even talked about Florida yet. The classified documents case. The materials found at Mar-a-Lago by federal agents. Reports indicate these weren't routine paperwork issues. We're talking about highly sensitive national security information. The law that covers retaining classified defense information carries serious prison time per violation, and Trump reportedly faces dozens of counts. Plus, there's evidence suggesting surveillance footage may have been deleted after legal demands were made. If prosecutors can prove who directed that deletion, analysts say that's another serious federal crime. This isn't speculation. It's procedural. And it's moving forward. The Republican Party is splitting in real time. Loyalists are holding firm. Others are quietly backing away. Internal pressure is reportedly being applied to anyone who speaks critically. Republican officials who certified election results are still getting threats. But here's what's being calculated behind the scenes. Polls reportedly show that nearly a third of Republicans say they wouldn't support Trump if he's convicted. That number would make winning a general election extremely difficult. So, Republican candidates in competitive states are already creating distance. They know that having someone convicted at the top of the ticket creates problems for everyone running below. And there's still that constitutional question that hasn't been fully resolved. A clause in the 14th Amendment about insurrection. It bars certain people from holding federal office. No criminal conviction is required. Some states have already tried removing Trump from their ballots. The Supreme Court will decide if those removals can stand. The fact that these discussions are even happening at the highest levels of government tells you how serious this moment is. And while we're consumed by all of this, our allies around the world are watching. A former U.S. president facing criminal charges while making threats about domestic unrest. This is unprecedented in modern democratic history. Our adversaries are watching too. They're looking for weakness. China is increasing pressure in Asia. Russia is making moves in Europe. Iran is expanding nuclear activities. American instability now has global consequences. To the rest of the world right now, America looks vulnerable. Here's the deeper truth. Most coverage is missing. Beyond the immediate legal drama, something fundamental is changing. The D.C. court's decision destroyed a long-held assumption that former presidents exist in a space beyond criminal accountability. That protective barrier is gone, shattered. For decades, presidents relied on norms and institutional respect. Avoid obviously criminal behavior, work with Congress, accept election results peacefully. Those norms are no longer enough protection. The rejection of immunity shifts executive power permanently. It changes the rules for every future president, regardless of party. Prosecutors are now working on a criminal justice timeline, not a political calendar. Once that clock starts, it doesn't stop for polls. It doesn't wait for elections. It doesn't bend to party pressure. Trump's public statements have shifted in a way that concerns observers. He's no longer just claiming unfair treatment. He's publicly attacking potential witnesses by name, calling them traitors, calling them weak. Legal experts say this could be considered witness intimidation, which is a federal crime. But here's the irony. Every aggressive post doesn't slow down the institutions. It strengthens the prosecutor's case. Every attack becomes potential evidence. Every escalation makes the charges stronger. Trump is allegedly creating obstacles while the prosecution is actively happening. And the witnesses understand something important. Cooperating with prosecutors is now the safer choice legally. Staying silent could be dangerous. Once that shift happens among lower-level participants, pressure builds on everyone above them. Once one person cooperates, the pressure multiplies. Here's where we are right now. 28 days until the full court opinion reportedly comes. 45 days until trial motions could be finalized. 70 days until the speedy trial deadline. The lead prosecutor has declared Trump's immunity arguments have no merit. 3 judges agreed unanimously. The Supreme Court remains silent. Security in Washington is elevated. Criminal investigations are moving forward in 4 different places. Constitutional disqualification questions are being argued simultaneously. This is everything converging. All the investigations, all the evidence, all the testimonies, everything that's been building for 3 years is coming together in this narrow window. When the trial judge opens proceedings, there won't be ambiguity. Jurors won't vote on whether they like someone's policies. They'll vote on documented evidence presented by federal prosecutors, backed up by testimony from the defendant's own appointees, supported by video footage everyone has seen. There's no denying when your own vice president testifies against you. There's no claiming you barely knew someone when your chief of staff describes Oval Office conversations. There's no spinning when jurors hear actual recordings. The paper trail reportedly exists. The witness list is reportedly strong. The charges are specific. And if conviction happens in any jurisdiction before November, sentencing follows. That means potentially a convicted person becoming the nominee. Secret Service protecting someone in legal custody, campaign events reduced to video feeds, a political operation paralyzed by criminal consequences, something without precedent in American history. Trump himself remains the most unpredictable factor. His reactions are reportedly growing more extreme, more authoritarian, more disconnected from legal reality. Statements warning of chaos if prosecutions continue aren't just rhetoric. Law enforcement is treating them seriously. Security assessments elevated, task forces monitoring communications, enhanced courtroom protection being prepared, protective details for prosecutors, witnesses, and judges activated. These agencies learned from January 6th not to dismiss this kind of language. That event followed weeks of false claims and calls to action. The next 28 days represent a critical window. Reports suggest Trump understands conviction is becoming more likely, control is slipping, and when Trump feels cornered, he escalates. That pattern is documented throughout his career. The lead prosecutor's investigation doesn't stop with one case. Evidence related to witness tampering and obstruction has reportedly been gathered. Multiple grand juries are reportedly active at the same time in different cities, in different jurisdictions. State-level charges could emerge even as federal cases proceed. Financial crimes, business fraud, campaign violations, insurance fraud, each moving independently, each creating separate exposure. We're in territory the Constitution considered, but the founders hoped would never be tested. Multiple accountability systems activating at once. Criminal prosecution, civil lawsuits, congressional oversight, potential constitutional disqualification. Watch what happens in the Republican Party over the next month. The divisions forming now aren't temporary stress. They're fundamental realignment. Once elected, Republicans publicly step away from supporting Trump. Momentum builds. Every new defection makes the next one easier. Every calculated silence speaks louder than any defense. More court rulings are coming. More witness statements leaking. More former officials speaking out. More Republicans quietly hoping for conviction so they won't have to choose between loyalty and winning elections. Here's the question that truly matters. This is no longer about whether Trump gets convicted. Given the reported evidence, the witnesses, and the jury pool, conviction in at least one jurisdiction appears increasingly possible. The real question is, what version of American democracy comes out after we've tested every institutional safeguard designed to hold presidents accountable? Donald Trump built his entire political brand on the idea that rules don't apply to him, that he's above consequences, that force of will and media control could override institutional limits. What's happening now is the collapse of that belief system. Not through speeches, through procedure, court orders, jury selection, witness testimony under oath. The criminal justice system is cold, methodical, relentless, indifferent to rage.
Due process is the one arena he's never dominated.
The countdown is real. The evidence is reportedly locked in. The next move belongs to the court system. And that system doesn't negotiate. The next 10 weeks will determine not just one man's fate, but whether accountability has real meaning in American democracy. If you want to stay informed beyond the mainstream headlines and understand the actual legal mechanics shaping this case, subscribe right now. We break down court documents, we decode legal strategy, we track what prosecutors are actually building without the partisan spin. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because the next 28 days will move faster than traditional news can keep up. Drop your prediction in the comments. Conviction before the election or delays past November? I'll see you in the next update.